So this was Allo versus Tro number 2, but this time we're not talking heart disease, nothing to do with heart disease, we're talking private practice. It seems that when we talked the first time, we were talking heart disease and it was super cool conversation. You guys will love it, kind of, heart disease from two different perspectives. But this time, all we talked was about private practice. And, the first conversation, when we first started talking, it became very clear that he was in private practice and I was in private practice in the second interview. And that's how we decided to do the second interview about private practice. There's a lot of doctors and a lot of young doctors, especially, who are considering private practice as an option because in today's medical world, almost nobody goes into private practice. If you've watched some of my previous videos, some of them are about, being an employed physician versus being a private practice, what to look out for in contracts and non-contracts and private groups and non-private groups, partnership agreements, etc. So I wanted to interview him on what his thoughts were on private practice. Like, would you recommend that every physician try to go into private practice? Would you not? What are the pitfalls? How did you start a private practice? Why did you even decide to go into private practice? And his answers were very, very shocking. I did not expect to get the type of answers that he gave me, nor did I expect to get the kind of crazy stories that he gave me. There are definitely some things in private practice that you're just like, whoa. And obviously also in being an employed physician, etc. But it was a really cool interview. I think you guys will love it. It ran kind of long. So if you want to go into all kinds of deep stuff, like what should partnership agreements look like? Should you go into into a private practice? How do you become a partner? What's the best way to get a partner? All that kind of stuff. Highly recommend this interview. I'm going to stop talking. You guys can go and watch it, and I hope you enjoy it. All right. Welcome, Dr. Tro. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us about yourself, where you practice, and what you focus on in your practice.
Yeah, happy to be here. My name's Tro Kalajian. I'm a physician. I went to medical school in 2007 to 2011 at Toro College of Osteopathic Medicine. I did my internal medicine residency at Yale-affiliated hospital, Greenwich Hospital. I was chief resident there. That was 2014. And I've been practicing internal medicine, more than a decade now. So a little bit about me. I was 350 pounds and I lost 150 pounds. Struggled with weight my entire life, despite loving exercise, doing marathons. I struggled with weight and I lost 150 pounds about 10 years ago, kept it off. And I've been in private practice for 7 years now or 8 years now, which seems like a lot longer. Published 11 papers now and counting, one that you shared recently. So that's my story.
Sorry, give me a second here. The hospital's texting me. I don't know why I'm on call today. But anyways, So that is awesome. I guess my question to you, and I'll describe what private practice versus employed means. My question to you is, you were previously an employed physician, right? Like, right, coming out of residency and all that, you probably did what most people do, and they were just looking for jobs, found a job, signed a contract, what have you. Does that sound accurate? Did you do that?
Yeah. So I started, I went to a big hospital system, right? I wanted to serve my community. So I moved back to where I was born. I had a strong interest in sort of being a community doctor. And I went with a big, very reputable institution, and they put me into a practice. They had just bought a practice. Around that time, 10 years ago, was when hospitals were really starting to ramp up buying practices again. And they had just bought a practice, and they threw me in there. 2 docs looking to retire. I'm not really sure the hospital knew what they were getting into. About a month in, I'll tell you, this is a funny story. They're kind of showing me the ropes, how they run their practice, et cetera. And one of them says, hey, when you bring the patients in and I kid you not, rush them in, get them inside and take their blood pressure right away. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, take the blood pressure right away. If you can show that their blood pressure is high, they won't ding you for an EKG, and you can get an EKG and you can bill a little bit more. That's what he said to me. Right. And I'm like,
tell them to eat a sandwich before they get a fasting glucose.
Yeah, basically. And so that was, and then a month after that, the other doctor that I had, was paired with these two docs that sold their practice. He asked me for narcotics. So I'm like fresh out of residency, chief resident.
The
you
doctor
remember
asked you for narcotics?
The doctor asked me for narcotics. Yeah. So he asked me to prescribe him narcotics. So imagine being a resident. You go to the reputable institution. I mean, my residency program was amazing. I was a chief resident. It was it was a great program, so supportive, a lot of education. It was really a center of excellence. Yale is a center of excellence, and Greenwich Hospital was really a center of excellence. Their program is amazing. And there was a lot of pride working there. And the reason why I chose the hospital system I did was it sort of had a similar feel. And I was hoping it would be a place of excellence. And in my first 2 months there, I'm getting asked for narcotics, and I'm basically being taught how to scam insurance systems. So immediately I'm like, this is a problem. So I was like, in the third month, I mentioned it to the office manager there. I had 7 managers. I had a purchasing manager, a scheduling manager, an office manager, a CFO, a chief medical officer. I mean, I had I couldn't count. It was insane. It was insane. I was reporting to 7 people. And I talked to the office manager. She's like, yeah, they're really old. They're going to retire next year. Don't worry about it. And I'm just seeing one funny thing after the other. I don't know how far you want me to go into this, but actually,
no, go. I mean, I think the more people hear about this kind of stuff and how the incentives really don't align.
So I'll tell you. So now I'm like, on high nerves because my office manager is doing nothing, and then patients are starting to report to me just things that you don't want to hear, like, this doctor makes me feel uncomfortable. He asked me to undress even when I have a cold. Okay. Yeah. I mean, you're shaking your head. This is me. Like, I'm trying to get my job done good. I'm trying to serve my community. Then another patient says it. He's really thorough, sometimes too thorough. I don't know why, but every patient, this is my first year in a major institution, right? So I go to the risk manager. I'm like, I can't deal with this. I have to report it to somebody. I don't know where to go to. I'm just just fresh out. This is my first year. I told my office manager really is not doing anything. So I go to risk management and I'm like, please help me. I'm not trying to ruffle feathers, but I want you guys to know what's going on because this is what I'm seeing. I have 6 unorthodox complaints from patients. I have a doc asking me for narcotics once a month. And I have a guy who's, just trying to get more EKGs to bill insurance. And, they said, it's interesting. We'll look into it. Maybe we'll cut their hours. They're retiring anyway. They're 70, they're nearing 80, 2 weeks later, they did nothing about it. 2 weeks later, they called me and they said, we want to give you a salary cut. Me, a salary cut. So that was my experience.
Were you signed at a predatory, higher rate? Like some of these corporations, they'll put up these huge numbers. Like they're trying to recruit for, let's say, anything, a urologist. They're like, oh, we'll pay $750 the first year, and it's a guaranteed contract. Even if you don't do anything, you'll get $750. But then if you don't read the fine print or have an attorney look at it, first of all, there's clauses in there where they can fire you for without cause, and there's all kinds of crazy stuff. But even forget that. If you don't, the first year is guaranteed, and let's say they're honest people, and that's really what it says. But then the second year, it's like it's all RVU based, and there's not enough RVUs to go around, and you probably be making 200, 250. And I know normal people are probably listening to this and thinking, I'll take that any day. But I know this sounds crazy, and it comes from a place of privilege for both of us. But they promise you these insane numbers, and then they obviously cut your salaries. Was this one of those situations where they promised you like you'd be making so much? Was it all RVU based, or was it like
I had a very reasonable salary, I would say average for internal medicine. I had a loan, I had a mortgage. I mean, I needed my job, right? Like it wasn't like I was rolling in the dough. I drove a Toyota, RAV4. So nobody, like when you hear these numbers, just realize you're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loans off. It is a high number. It's a high in, high out. So, but no, it was a very reasonable thing. It was retaliatory, I suspect. Part of it was also
was the contract such that they could do that, where they could just cut your salary whenever?
No, so it was a violation of the contract, and I brought it to their attention that any salary change would result in me being able to leave within 30 days. I mean, my attorney, really sort of protected me there. I think part of their concern was I was going to make a large bonus. I served that. I had lived in that community and been in that community for a long time. I was already teed up to be a director of a nursing home. I had a particularly interest in, it's a nursing home I worked and volunteered at for years. They needed a director. They knew me. I knew them. So it was a complex situation. They wanted to garnish that directorship revenue from me, and then they wanted to renegotiate my salary. So it was just a messy, terrible situation. So really
how deep into your salary, like, is this just a few months later or a year later?
It's like it's 6. This is month 6, right? So month 6, yeah.
Jeez.
So they're on the hook. Probably what it'll look like to be a bonus structure they didn't think I'd be able to hit. But this all got started by me making a complaint to risk management of very unorthodox behavior from 2 physicians, and I think they brought this practice in haste. And they didn't really know what they were buying. They didn't really know the people, they just threw a new doc in there. So it was that minute I basically was like, I'm out of here, Ro. I told my wife, I looked at her, I was like, I can't do this. I can't be beholden to sort of these systems. I really need to leave. And so I did 2 things, at month 6 into my first year. I said, I'm going to go into private practice. I said, it was actually 3 things. I'm going to get healthy, right? Because all the stress of that, I had gained another, I was 325 pounds coming out of, chief year. And then I was at 345 pounds. And I was like, I'm going to get healthy. I cannot let this stress kill me. And I am going to, go somewhere that's much better than here. And I'm going to work on starting my own. So luckily, the prior hospital I worked with, they took me in open arms. I actually got paid even more. They were looking to cut my salary. I got a pay raise leaving. And I worked as a hospitalist for the next maybe 3 or 4 years. And then about a year in, the hospitalist life is actually not terrible. You get to take care of acute issues.
Have 1 week on, 1 week off, or was it full?
I actually did 3 nights a week. It was awesome. It was great. At nights, there's no quality rounds. There's no disciplinary rounds. There's no, whatever, safety rounds. All it is sick people and real medical issues in the middle of the night. Right.
So you were a nocturnist.
I was a nocturnist, and
I did that for about a year and a half. Towards the second half of my fellowship in cardiology, I was the nocturnist at night. A few shifts a month, because we were only getting paid $25,000. It was insane. It was the lowest salary in all of Chicago. And I know most people are probably listening to this what's wrong with that? But it was $25,000 for a fully licensed physician. And we were making basically nothing. If I worked one single shift a month, I would double my salary. So I would do 2 or 3 to just, and of course, the student loans and all that, like you said, it's $250,000 of, loans and whatnot. And we didn't live a lavish life. I mean, I drove a Jeep Wrangler, like you said, Honda Accords and whatnot for the longest time. Um, but no,
Yeah,
sorry, go
I
on.
mean, yeah. I mean, so one, I was going back to an institution. I mean, they asked me to be chief resident. I did a lot for Yale and Greenwich. I worked on, I was on the safety council. I was part of the GMAC. I was part of the IRB committee. I mean, I really knew that institute. It was amazing, still an amazing hospital, one of the best hospitals in the East Coast. Um, and it was such a pleasure to work there. I worked as a hospitalist. I worked on their low back pain guidelines. I worked on, I did a lot and I loved it. I mean, so leaving that first, so I can't say that all, academic large centers are awful because, Yale and Greenwich Hospital happened to be a really great place to work. But I will say that as time went on, that nocturnist and hospitalist role became more and more corporate and more organized. And I would say that the quality of life of those who are doing that job has gone down since. So, but at the same time, I became a nocturnist. I was like, I have to start getting my life in order. I'd lose, basically 70 pounds doing a ketogenic diet in the first year. I lose another 60 pounds in the second year. I lose another 20 pounds a year after that. And I'm like, you know what? I've seen the light. Obesity medicine is the calling. I have to, I've reversed my own life. I want to do this. And that's really, I started doing telemedicine privately on my own back.
So you had started your own kind of like private practice corporation at this point, or still?
Yeah, no. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have always been, I've been a serial, I don't want to say entrepreneur, but I've started businesses before, bought and sold businesses and throughout my life. And luckily I've had great sort of help. My wife's an attorney, my parents are accountants. So I really had all the bones needed to get things going. So I started, I opened up a corporation and, I got insurance and, created a website and, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I started seeing patients when telemedicine wasn't even a thing.
How long ago would you say that was? 2015,
2016. Yeah, 2016. So we were doing remote weight monitoring in 2017 and remote blood pressure monitoring before COVID, before anything. And it was the most amazing job. I would see patients very regularly. They'd pay me directly. There was no insurance. And I got to
cash only type of situation.
Yeah, and I got to practice great medicine. I mean, I'm looking at blood pressures in real time and CGMs were out and we were using CGMs. We're looking at blood sugar in real time. We're looking at weight and lean mass and fat mass in real time. And it was honestly the best internal medicine I'd ever practiced in my life. I hadn't, even though I was, I loved clinic and residency and I loved the outpatient setting. I was never really able to help people change, the course of their chronic diseases. But that's all I was doing, in this telemedicine practice. I was helping people, reverse fatty liver, their diabetes is improving. They're coming off insulin. They're losing weight. They're happier. They're healthier. Their mood's improving. It really started. It was like it was a deep prescription clinic. That's not what it was. I mean, it was advertised as sort of concierge telemedicine, weight loss, but it was the beginning of a deep prescription clinic. And then, I remember in 2018, I had a 2-year non-compete. So this is the one area where they screwed me. So I had a 2-year non-compete
with the Greenwich place.
No,
the clinic.
With the other clinic. So I had to wait 2 years to compete in that area. So I mean, part of the telemedicine, even though I wanted to serve my community, was I needed to start something on my own, and I couldn't, open I wasn't going to like drive 50 miles to open a clinic. So, yeah, that's another thing, if you're like a med student or something listening to this, or a doc that's, do not sign a restrictive covenant. Like, do not, like, I cannot say this enough. Do not sign a non-compete. Do not sign a restrictive covenant. The power is with you. You do not need to sign it. Don't sign it.
That's what I tell our fellows. Like you imagine yourself like you're the LeBron James. You're the prize, not the job. They view their new job and they're trying to get hired. They view their jobs as like, oh, these people are offering me this much and whatever. And they view the job as the prize. I'm like, no, no, no. You're the prize. You're the one that it's impossible for them to find physicians to go to, Bumblefart, Iowa, or wherever it is. Like you're the prize. You should handle yourself like you're the prize. You can change whatever you want in the contract. If they don't want you. That's on them. No big deal. But I've seen different kinds of contracts that I review a lot of them myself even. But there are some corporations that'll say there's no non-compete. We're going to make it so amazing to work here that no one will ever want to leave. And if you want to leave, you can leave. You can leave and go open up a clinic across the street if you want to. And there's other ones that come from more of a scarcity mindset that are like, they're going to have the longest non-competes and the worst restrictions and the most restrictive everything in their contracts. There's obviously some in between. But the places where it's like, hey, you want to come work here? We'll make it so amazing that you'll love working with us and never want to leave. And then there's the opposite extreme, like the complete opposite, which is like, no, once we lock you in, we're going to make sure you're stuck here forever. Another important point that I think you made is that there's like 17 administrators you have to answer to. And people think the cost of medicine has gone up since the 1960s because of like physician salaries, which has not gone up. It's gone up like maybe 5%, if that. It's not even 12% of the 3 trillion we spend on medicine. What has gone up though is administrative costs. The cost to administer this gigantic $3.5 trillion industry is insane. It's all these like 17 administrators that you have to answer to, and the quality control lady down the hall. And like one time a guy was telling me, and I've seen this, if his monitor stopped working and he couldn't see patients anymore, he had to call headquarters. He had to call the IT guy who had to get a budget approval from headquarters in DC, who had to call back to some guy somewhere. To be like a week before they got a monitor. He's like, I could have just walked down to Best Buy and bought a $50 monitor and finished seeing my patients that day. Instead, they had to cancel clinic, for the next whatever it was. But the administrative costs and the administrative overhead and the red tape and all that to administer these things. And I get it, you have to scale healthcare because there's so many people. But to scale it while having so much administrative burden and red tape and all of that, I mean, I get it. We do need to have some regulations in place, but it doesn't need to be this excessive. I think it's way, way too much. And that's what's driving up the cost. Not even like also obviously imaging and excessive testing and all that stuff. Sure. But one of the largest costs that people don't understand is the administrative costs. And I'm not talking badly about administrators. They didn't make this problem. They've walked into it. This was created a while ago, and it keeps ballooning. And also to your point, like my father went through exactly what you're talking about. They started buying up practices. He's a colorectal surgeon. And back in like the late 90s, these large hospitals started buying up all the primary doctors. They came after them first, and then they started coming after the specialists, and the specialists all basically kind of said no. They banded together. But eventually the hospitals, started hiring their own specialists. And, there are still some that are private practice, but there's a ton that are part of these systems. And like I said, sometimes the system can go very, very wrong and very, very bad, even though they all think they're trying to help patients. Like, they say that the people that work there are probably well-intentioned, but the system ultimately is designed to stay solvent, make money, stay afloat, make even more money, whatever it might be. And the incentives are not always aligned. Like, and as an example that I always give, like if a patient comes to the ER and you could technically send them home, like when I worked as a hospitalist, the ER's job, if they see a patient, they could send him home. The guy's fine, give him some metoprolol, whatever, send him home, see me in the morning. That's actually good care. You got the guy out of the hospital. He's doing well. You made sure nothing serious or, bad is happening. But the hospital would have meetings with the ER and say, hey, 22% of people that walk through the door should be admitted. So find reasons to admit people. We're kind of hurting here. And if you just find random reasons to admit people, now they're getting IVs. Now they're getting probably testing that's not necessary. You're exposing them to all these things that they may or may not need that could potentially be harmful. And it's not better healthcare. It definitely generates income for the hospital. But if you could send those people home, why not send them home? So I think there's a huge problem with incentives being aligned. And I think obviously not everyone can do private practice. Like you said, you have to be very entrepreneurial. But definitely, I think in private practice, at least, of course, there could be abuse, like you said, that one clinic you were talking about. But definitely the incentives are not aligned. The costs are ballooning. It's almost impossible to help people get healthy when they have no skin in the game. I mean, imagine, and somebody asked me this, I don't know what your thoughts are, but imagine if insurance company would say, we can't insure you if you keep smoking. I mean, or we can't insure you if you don't, find a way to whatever, like I think if some incentives was also built into that, where there's a little bit more, because like if you get hurt or something, you show up, they're going to do an MRI, they're going to do a CAT scan, they're going to scan your lungs. Probably a lot of that is unnecessary, but it's also like cover your butt medicine so that people don't get sued. Well, we checked his this and we scanned that and we didn't find this. And, I think a lot of it is also the litigious, like focus that we have in the system where everyone wants to cover themselves legally and say, well, we checked this, we checked everything, nothing's wrong. And then you send the guy home or put him in or whatever. So I don't know. I feel like that's a big problem too. Just the incentive structure and the administration is just so overburdening. I don't know what.
Well, I mean, and look, we could probably go for hours. I think if you look at incentives, right? I think direct care is probably the best incentive you can have. The reality is, as a doctor,
describe direct care so people who don't know what that is.
Yeah, I'm gonna describe it. So let's say you have insurance, right? You have to understand that insurance company has made a contract with the physician group, right? And so you are not, as a patient, you are not the customer. Your insurance company is the customer. So you need to fundamentally understand that, right? That you're not, it's not that the doctor doesn't care about you, right? He's getting paid by an insurance company. He's not getting paid by you. So you are sort of along for the ride. So the insurance model for healthcare, I think, is a huge problem because it doesn't align the physician's financial goals with the health of the patient. So whether that patient does well or not, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. The insurance company is still going to pay you. So I think one of the right now in direct care model is basically the patient pays you directly. So if a patient comes to me with a goal, like I want to lose 43 pounds, and I don't help them meet the goal, they stop coming. If a patient comes to me and is like, I want to do everything to, reduce my risk for cardiovascular disease, and I don't do that, why would they come to me? They can go to the person that takes insurance, right? So I think going into direct care was very important to me because I wanted to align my financial incentive with the service I provide to the patient. And I want it to be so good, so amazing, they have no reason to leave, right? So if you can be an amazing doctor, know that patient so well, take care of that patient so well, do a service to them that's undeniably beneficial, why would they ever leave? And that's what I found. I love the direct care model. I love the sort of concierge model. We don't take any insurance, and I feel like I'm completely aligned. We took that in our clinic one step further, where employers now pay for us. So we have contracted with 7 employers, and the employers actually pay for us, for different reasons. So the employees of companies that use our service actually get our service for free or almost free, very discounted. And our job and our stated mission to those patients is to reverse chronic disease, right? If you have blood pressure, to reverse, hypertension. If you have reflux, to get you not having reflux. If you have, obviously, if it's, an anatomic issue, we won't be able to solve that, but diet can often help these things. If you have diabetes, trying to improve the diabetes so you don't need the medication. So the employers pay us because now we have a track record of getting employees healthy, and not only healthy, happy. Their CDC quality of life surveys go down in our employer programs. And we have have categorically saved them money. The employers, remember, are on the hook for, they are self-funded. They pay for, the health of their workers. They're on the hook for the healthcare costs. So we've systematically showed that we could save them money on it. So it's now I found what I believe to be the ultimate incentive model, and it's not me. I mean, other companies do this. It's not like I discovered this, but it's a win-win-win scenario where sort of we make money, but we fulfill our mission to really actually help people, and demonstrate that, and then the companies make money because their employees are healthier. And the patients win. They don't have co-pays. They don't have to go wait in an hour to go see a doctor. They're getting a convenient sort of virtual care, and they get to lose weight and be healthy. So I love the sort of value-based care model. And some of the newer companies, we don't get paid if we don't produce results. Meaning, if we take on patients and we don't actually reverse disease, we don't get paid. So I think that's like, if you wanted to,
because the patient leaves, or because what? Why don't you get paid?
No, if the patient's A1C or weight does not go down, we don't get paid
By the
employer. By the employer, correct.
And so describe to everyone what a direct care model is. So, because I don't think that might not be a familiar term. Patients are paying you a monthly fee out of their own pocket, or the corporation's, their employer's pocket, right?
Correct.
So it has nothing to do with insurance. I mean, they have insurance for, major problems, obviously, but this is like for primary direct care. They pay you a monthly fee, and they get like 2 physicals a year or something like that. Or describe your system.
Yes. So direct care, basically takes out the middleman out of the care. So there's no insurance company. There's no middleman. We opted out of Medicare. We don't take any Medicare. We don't take any Medicaid. We don't accept any insurance. We can give you super bills that you can submit for claims to your insurance out of network, but everybody's deductible is so high and nobody has out of network benefits that it's basically doesn't matter anymore. But the idea is the patients pay directly to us on a monthly fee, correct? Our practice model is a little bit different than most direct care. Most direct care is just the doctor. We're a nationwide telemedicine service that has health coaches, personal trainers, multiple doctors. Correct. Yeah. So it's a little bit different. So we do primary care. We do sort of metabolic and weight loss.
Like health coaching almost.
Yep. We have health coaches. So we have, and all, it's a different model. People aren't used to it, but the goal is, really, my love would be to make it more affordable and reachable. I think, $200 a month is hard for people. It's not easy. But and I hope one day to make that even less expensive. But the patients pay us directly, and if we don't, they can leave anytime. There's no dotted line. They can pick up and go if they're not getting value out of their care. So ultimately, we have an app, we have communities, we have meetings every day that people can go to, whether it's about exercise, whether it's about
yeah, I saw
overall health.
Your app before our first interview. I was like, what is this? Let me see what this is. Because I have an app too, but mine is mainly like lectures on hypertension, DVT, atrial fibrillation, things like that. It was not, yours is far more advanced, or like at least has way more features. It seems like you use it as an integral part of your practice, which I really liked. So I found that very helpful. And it does seem to have a community feature in it as well.
Correct. Yeah.
It's also nice.
Yeah. The idea is, look, most of us are looking to bond, right? We're not just looking, like, we want to lose weight. We want to connect with others. A lot of times people who have severe obesity are alone. Maybe they can't even, get out of the house. They're uncomfortable. They don't want to go to a doctor's office. So, we really try to make every part of our care engaging. We talk about CAC, we talk about cardiovascular health. I don't know if you saw our cardiovascular. We have a full lecture on going through all the drugs, all the different, supplements that are used, over the counter, aspirin, what are the effects, the different testing modalities. We have diabetes, we have, sleep, the effects of sleep. I mean, but we try to make it interactive and fun. We have live, courses that people can go to. That is absolutely an integral part of the clinic. So every patient has access to it for free. And then they get it.
I'm sure you already know this, but for the listeners, the data shows that when you're trying to change your life, whether it's quitting smoking, losing weight, changing your diet, when you have a social support system, it is huge. Like, you can't quit smoking if your spouse is still smoking in the house. You can't start eating healthy if your spouse or your close-knit friends or whatever are always not eating healthy. So providing online communities now in the world of social media and apps and all that is just insanely helpful, because people can connect with people from all over the world, really, that have similar beliefs, like the community feel, can text and message each other every day, have access to physicians, nutritionists, exercise, people, all of that. I think that is huge. Hopefully that will be a model of healthcare of the future. A question that always comes up is, obviously it's scary to jump ship. And how did you feel about, okay, I'm leaving my job, now I'm going to start this new thing, and all right, let's cross our fingers here. I mean, you sounds like you have some entrepreneurial experience from before, but what was it like with that? Because I know a lot of students and residents and fellows, obviously, they're graduating, they're quote unquote looking for a job instead of just starting one. And I know it's not that easy now, but even when I graduated, there was only like very few private practices in cardiology left. So it was like, you got to join a group or join a hospital. I mean, there was no options really. What would you say to that person who's thinking, should I sign my first contract? I'm $250,000 in debt. I just got out of school. I don't know anything. I don't know how to start a business. What would you say to that person?
Honestly, I would say, look, find a center of excellence, and go work there. That's what I would say. I would say, if you have it in you to really, like, I cannot tell you how many docs call me, all across the country with failing private practices. There are a lot, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And that because if they just slap on the hospital logo on their office, they're immediately getting paid 3 times more from insurance companies. So private practice is getting screwed by insurance companies, and you're not getting good rates. And so if you're opening a private practice and you're not in an IPA, an Independent Physicians Association, which is like a group of docs that try to negotiate better rates, or you're not part of some sort of
ACO or something.
You're really going to struggle, right? They're going to give you nothing. And so I think in the insurance model, it's very hard. Now, I have talked to docs, it like wrecks my heart. There's this amazing preventative, cardiologist who also has obesity medicine certification out in Texas. And he opened up his own sort of weight loss clinic. He hired a dietitian. He took out ads. He spent, $200,000-$300,000 on advertisements. He's got licensed in 12 states, and he just couldn't make it work. Right. You have to understand, you're competing against, Weight Watchers, and you're competing against, all these Calibrate and all these, what's that company that had the Super Bowl ad, Row or Hims and Hers? Yeah. Stuff. So, he spent about $500,000, and, he had to close up shop. Right. I have another doc who, went into private practice. He was a guest on my podcast, really bright, really good doc. I mean, but he, opened up a direct care practice in an area that wasn't so affluent. So he really struggled. He really struggled to get volume.
What's the secret sauce? What do you think makes some practices work that try to do this and some that don't? Like, what did you tell that cardiologist after spending $500,000 in ads and hiring?
I told him was the issue? I told him that he should look to serve his community and like make bonds with actual people, like go open up an office next to the biggest allergy clinic was down the block from him. I said, like, there's 500 patients a day going to that office. Put your office right next to it, and just start there. Reach out to the community, give lectures around the community, try to engage with, go to the Chamber of Commerce.
But like from what I know, it's hard to get into a cardiologist's office. At least that's what most people call us. I mean, we called you guys and we got in right away. I mean, we make that a rule. If somebody calls their new patient, we get them in that day or the next day or like within a few days. We do not let them wait. They said everyone else they've called, it's like a 3, 4, 9 month waiting list to get in. With this guy running ads or whatever he was doing, the cardiologist, how is it possible that he had a practice when people are trying to see cardiologists and can't get in? And how come his office wasn't full from day one?
So just to say, he was a preventative cardiologist who opened up a weight loss and obesity focused clinic. So
it wasn't cardiology.
So it wasn't cardiology, correct? Yeah,
And like the problem is, weight loss is a dime a dozen now. Everybody has a telemedicine GLP prescribing nonsense.
Well, this was before that, but yes, you're absolutely right.
Okay.
This was before that.
I mean,
but
it seems like every day is like a new pop-up GLP prescriber online.
Correct. Yes, there's a lot of pill mills out there. But like to go back to the primary care doc I talked about from North Carolina, a brilliant guy. I think it's tough. You as a service-based business, I think you have to cater to people's emotions, their convenience, the customer's got to always be right. You just sort of hit the nail on the head. The customer's got to when I talk to my staff, I tell them, pretend that the New York Times is going to interview them after they walk out of your office, right? Pretend that this is not only as the New York Times, it's like Kim Kardashian, and the New York Times is going to interview them when they walk out of the office. Absolutely. That's the level of care. Like, I don't care about Kim Kardashian, and I don't read the New York Times, but that wasn't my point. My point is like everybody needs to be rowing in the same direction. And in my clinic, I think everybody understands, like, we are here to help these people lose weight, reverse their diabetes, reverse their hypertension, and get a handle of their health. One of the things that we do that other clinics don't do, we get every record, every image, every hospitalization, any procedure done, we get the record since birth, right? So we get every single record before that patient comes into our office. So we know everything about them before they're ever seen, right? Before they're ever seen, a doctor is reviewing, on average, maybe 25 to 50 pages of records.
Is it just one doctor, or do you have multiple now?
No, we have multiple doctors. Dr. Laura Buchanan's one. We have a PA. We have a NP we're about to hire. And we hopefully will be hiring our third doctor soon. So it's been great. I mean, we're growing. But I think, like, to your point and what you said, what you focused on was the customer's got to be right. People, they have to have their needs met.
I mean, you have to be obsessed with that. I mean, like, honestly, like, I saw a customer one time posted a review about one of our office staff supposedly didn't call him with test results. I saw his name on the Google review. I called him. I was like, hey, John, what exactly happened here? Like, you have to care. I mean, you have to be obsessed with your reputation, excellence. The customer's always right, like you said. I mean, we are obsessed with making the customer, I don't know why I keep calling them customers, but the patient, I guess, / customer, since we're private practice, they could pick anybody else, but the customer / patient experience as optimal as possible. Like you said, imagine the celebrity walks out and the biggest newspaper in the world is going to interview them. They should be like glowing and saying amazing stuff. Now, obviously it's hard because we do accept insurance and we have tons of patients. We're not a direct care type of model, so the numbers are huge, and it's hard to get in to see cardiology because, like I said, they're usually really backed up. But we try to make that, like, we're obsessed with that, and we'll do everything we can. And you are basically like a business owner. The ads, like, you got to run. I run the Facebook ads, like, you got to do the the marketing, you got to do the hiring and firing. You're the HR person. There's an accountant that we have. I mean, you basically got to do everything. I mean, there's no I think the appeal to my dad when he was doing private practice in the late 80s and 90s, the appeal was, listen, you do all the doctor stuff that you guys want to do. You do the surgeries, you see the patients. We'll take care of all the nonsense you don't want to do. We'll do the paperwork and the accounting and the billing, and we'll hire and fire whoever needs to be your staff, and we'll bring you supplies. So the appeal to physicians initially, I think when this all started, was, look, you get to do the doctor stuff. We'll take care of all the nonsense that you don't want to do. But then, of course, incentives are no longer aligned. Once you're employed and you're making $300,000 a year, and whether you see 20 patients or two, it seems like it didn't matter. And every year the doctors kind of cut back a little, and the hospital's like, this guy's not making as much as he told us. Like, what's going on here? Then they go to like a performance model and this RVU stuff that they do now, and it becomes a cycle of, you got to produce more or we can't really keep you. You're not earning your pay. And then doctors are like, you guys told me I get to do just the doctoring. I'm doing the doctoring. And the hospital's like, well, you're not doctoring enough. And now they're forcing physicians, more obviously in primary care, but every specialty, I'm sure, to see more patients per hour. And it's like a mill of get them in, get them out quickly, and get the next, code, the billing codes, and the next billing code. Like, every patient becomes a number. And I see a lot of patients are like, you guys are different. Over there, it's like, the doctor talked to me for all of 40 seconds and walked out and didn't even look at me. They were just looking at a computer screen the whole time. Here, you guys actually sat down with me and talked to me till I was done talking. So I think that makes a big difference when like, patient experience matters. Like you said, the patient could walk out and say a ton of horrible stuff about you, or just not recommend you to their employer again. Then you lose big contracts. Like, you have to produce satisfactory or excellent even results so that your patients stay, because they can walk down the street and go anywhere else. So I think that's definitely huge. But like you said, I don't think most medical students or residents are going to walk out of residency and say, you know what, I think I want to do that. I think it's just crazy.
I think, look, if you want to practice good medicine and you want to be away from all the sort of nonsense, be a nocturnist, be a hospitalist, right? Like, you're going to see acute care, you're going to see sick people, you're going to do good work. You'll have a schedule. If you have that entrepreneurial bug, if you can talk to people, if you know how to handle sort of patient emotions and patient anxiety and sort of lift them up, and you have a passion to sort of serve your community, go do that. It's going to be hard. If you can do it in a service of excellence or an established group, I cannot recommend that enough. If you happen to have a CPA parents and a lawyer wife, and that, glutton for punishment, go open up a practice. I honestly, I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it. Find another, it's a lot. From a
lifestyle standpoint, do you think, I mean, obviously it is more work, but would you trade it back? Would you go back? Because obviously, like, for me, honestly, I'm getting calls. And I put out all the LinkedIn ads when we're looking for new nuclear techs and new echo techs and vascular techs. Like, I do all that. I answer the phone calls. I interview them. If they pass the basic, test, I, eventually present them to my partners or whatever. Say, hey, this one sounds good, whatever. Send her over to the hiring lady, or like the lady that explains the benefits and signs them, basically, like the contract lady. But either way, like, obviously it's a lot of stuff that you probably didn't sign up for if you didn't have like a business oriented entrepreneurial mind. But how do you, would you have it any other way, I guess, is a question.
Would I have it any other way? I think when I first started, actually, when I was just opening up my telemedicine practice, I called up Jason Fung. I called up two people. I called up Mark Cucuzella. He's the guy who turned West Virginia to quit sugar. He got them to to stop selling vending machines with sodas in them and stop serving like regular sodas and juices and all that. Yeah, he's a doctor. Yeah, he's a family medicine doc.
He's a private practice doctor?
No, he didn't. But I called him and I was like, tell me everything you know. Like, it seems like you're actually kicking ass. Tell me how you did it. And then I called up Jason Fung because he had a great clinic focusing on metabolic health in Canada. I was like, tell me how you did it. Tell me what you did. And I remember talking to Jason back then, and he's been a mentor to me over the past, 7-8 years. he said to me, I asked him, I was like, what would it take to do what you did and just come make, let's open up 5 of what you did here in the States. Can we make this work? And I wish, I wish I had somebody like that. He didn't take me off on that offer. He wasn't ready to. I think now he would have been ready to. I wish there would have been somebody like that who would have said, let's give you a practice. Let's make it happen. And I could have, I put out 10 papers in the past, 6 years. I could have put out 50 papers. We helped companies we helped the average employee.
I gotta send you some of my fellows. They're always looking for research.
I mean, we have 2 ongoing IRBs right now, IRB projects, 6 research projects, 2 IRBs. We, it's a lot. There's a lot of distraction, and our program, and we're very light on medications. Like we stopped 96 medications. We started 8 in the paper that you helped me get the word out on. We stopped 96 and we started 8. And
so just a funny story. I don't mean to cut you off, but sometimes I get sent patients that are on a medication to lower their blood pressure, and then when it gets too low, they get put on another medication to raise it.
Oh my God.
That's nonsense.
That's all what we do all day long. Yeah. This is all we do.
Let's just stop both of these and see where your blood pressure lands and decide if you even need these, because it makes no sense.
Can I tell you, half of the when we enroll patients as employees, they ask the reviewers asked us to clarify who we take first. We review the medication list. And if we see something silly, we take that patient in right away. Right. I mean, if there's like a polypharmacy error, that's the person we take in because we know we're going to be able to have an impact right away.
So patients are screened before they can join your practice. Not everyone can just sign up.
No, they can sign up, but we can't take on so if a company comes to you with like 10,000 employees, right, and you open this up, you're going to get like 500 applications. You can't do 500 people in a day. So the question becomes, who do you see first?
It's hard to scale, right?
Right. Now you can scale it. You just have to triage. Right. So
who needs this the most, I guess, is what you're asking.
Bingo. We make those decisions, right? And eventually we'll get to everybody, or everybody could just use the app and, they can start engaging and start on their own journey. But eventually, we cater to the people who are sick. We're here for the sick. So, but to your point, like, I think if I was just starting, I wouldn't have done this. Like, we had to make an app. We had to make a website. We have
the app first. Like walk me through the steps. All right. Maybe so for a new doctor, I suppose. Like me personally, I didn't start this practice. I joined it. Yeah. And it was already established. It had been around for maybe 10 or 12 years before I joined. It's been around 26 now, maybe. I don't know, something like that. Since 1998, whatever that ends up being. And so for me, I didn't start it. I joined it and we just kind of grew it from there. I'm obviously very technologically savvy, so I'm good with social media. So like I took over the websites and some of the social media accounts were basically non-existent. But, we propped up some of those things. And I don't think like the social media accounts aren't like to get patients, but it's like if somebody Googles you or looks you up, you have a Facebook page they can read and an Instagram and they can at least do some research. Oh, here's the doctors I might be seeing or the nurse practitioners. Here's what the staff looks like. They seem like normal people. Just like to give people confidence maybe, or like, these people are real. They exist. It's a real practice because we're competing with like billion-dollar, companies in town. We have several of these large corporations that have like ads all over the place. And we have to stay afloat, obviously, too. And we do a fantastic job, but you have to be faster than them. Like for them, like some of these places, when they hire somebody or they need to make a decision, they got to call DC, who has to call Oregon, who has to call LA. Like they're all owned by these giant multi-state corporations. Not all of them, but some of them. And the decision making is so slow. You have to be fast and agile, and you got to do all these things quickly. You and I are obviously pretty good at social media, so I don't use my social media at all for my business. Obviously, I don't feel that's ethical. We have way too many patients as it is, but uh, and I'm not in that position because I have 10 partners. We're not, it's not the Dr. Allo practice, but um, I think having a presence online in your situation, it definitely helps, but you probably didn't have that when you started. So walk a person through kind of what the steps were when you wanted to start this.
I started literally online, right? I started a website, got a QuickBooks, told people what I was doing, send emails to family, posted it on social media. Hey, I'm opening this practice.
And at that time, what social media was around? Was it just like
Yeah, all
Facebook
of
and
it,
Twitter, or was
all of
everything?
it. Twitter,
Okay, so this is
yeah,
later. This
X,
is like 12, 13, 14.
yeah, X was there and all that stuff. It's really social media, Facebook, Twitter. It was Twitter. I don't think
Yeah,
I had
Twitter and
Instagram.
Facebook were the longest, are the oldest. Instagram was 2011.
Yeah. Yeah. I think thereafter I started Instagram. So really just social media, honestly. And then I started a podcast in 2018, which was in the 10 for medicine for a long time. Now it's like top 20, top 30. There's a lot of medical podcasts. So we have I think it's like 15 million or something like that downloads. So
Oh, wow.
I think that really helped. And honestly, if you lose 150 pounds, it's just, I don't think that hurts either. Right. So the before and
Yeah,
afters
you've
are,
got the proof.
yeah. And it's funny you say that. I'm laser focused on continuing to build proof, right? Like I want a report
Yeah, I see you
card.
like to publish a lot, which obviously adds more social proof, which is fantastic. That definitely helps spread the word and showing results. You can't really argue with results. I mean, that's
Yeah.
like what I
Like,
tell like you like a lot of my patients are like, well, I'm doing this diet and I've lost 50 pounds. I'm like, I'm not gonna argue with you. I don't care if it's the worst thing in the world. You're succeeding, you've lost a ton of weight, go with it. It's working for you, not a big deal. Um
well, so I think part of that is also like adding to the literature, right? So I think that's my obligation, right? So, we saw, for example, I shared with you a study where we were able to lower cholesterol in some patients by adding back carbohydrate. I mean, some of the wildest reductions in cholesterol I had ever seen in my life, right? And I published a case series on that because this stuff it's not all in the literature. Like, we're seeing things that maybe other people haven't seen. We have a case series on Zetia. I think I shared that with you too, where we got a very atypical response. So we're going to publish that. But then, I mean, so you get to publish cool things. We had a case series of
yeah,
patients.
our fellows a couple years ago published a study on chocolate and AFib. I forgot I don't even remember what the results were, but they come up with, cool creative stuff. I mean, part of our, I mean, we're private practice, but we're in charge of the fellowship at an academic hospital. So they have to do research to graduate, and they come up with very interesting stuff. Let's put it that way.
We have a lot of research projects if they're looking for work to do.
Yeah, I will definitely send them your way because I get messages from random students from all over saying, "Hey, are you guys doing any research? I'm trying to get into med school. I'd like to do some research to get it on my resume and learn." I'll be more than happy to send some people your way.
We have a research committee that meets every 2 weeks. We have 2 IRBs. Where we have a paper on food addiction that'll be published pretty soon. We have another paper, the Zetia, the poster will become a paper.
And I remember you messaged me that. What was the reduction in that one? The average reduction?
It was a 52% reduction in LDL, which is like three times the label.
That's approaching high potency, high dose statin or PCSK9 levels.
Yeah, I mean, crazy. I think the actual number was over 100. The reduction in
actual milligrams per deciliter.
Yeah. So it was, but I mean, these are unique. Like we have a unique population. I mean, this is not. You cannot extrapolate it to the regular. These are people who are typically on a strict ketogenic diet or strict low carb diet, or low carb high protein or low carb high fat. And so this is not like it's generalizable. It's a very esoteric population. But yeah, this is tough to do. Like that's all funded.
Like people think your job never ends. I mean, people think when I leave the parking lot to go home, and it's not. I'm having meetings.
I see you on Instagram. I see you on what is it? TikTok at 10 o'clock. So you're hustling all the time.
I'm doing what I can, but like we have meetings, we have Zoom meetings, we have partners, we're hiring new nurse practitioners, we have to get a new secretary, you're opening a new office, we need furniture, we need a new echo tech. One left, one got pregnant, one's found a better job, they're offering her 25 cents more. I mean, like it's a never ending cycle. When you're in private practice, you're everything. Like you're the web guy, you're the web designer, like you're literally the guy who, like if a piece of wrapper is on the ground, I pick it up and throw it away. I don't wait for the night crew to come in and clean up the office. Like you have to care about all that stuff.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Do you think most doctors have that in them?
No, I think most would rather just get hired and take a cushy job and go home and not have to worry about a pager or phone calls or meetings or stress at all.
Yep. So I don't think entrepreneurship's for everybody. I think, if you want a high quality of life, like if you want to be in a place of excellence, find a great private practice. That's what I would say, or find an
already established one, you mean?
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Find it. And then, they would love to have an eager doc that on a path to partnership. Like that would be like music to my ears. When Laura Buchanan came on, it was like she was 99th percentile on her family medicine board exam, 99th percentile on her obesity medicine exam. I mean, she was brilliant.
Like you're stating these numbers. The average person that listens to this has no idea what that even means. Like
she's brilliant.
Who had the top grades in high school, the top grades in college, the top grades in medical school.
Yeah, she was valedictorian. Yeah.
Finished a residency and scored 99.9 percentile, which is literally, if you had to look at the entire world, there's probably a handful of people that would ever, out of the 9 billion on earth, that would ever even accomplish that. So
yeah, and she's an amazing person. So she came to me and she's like, "Can we work something out?" I mean, that's like when those people come, and they're like, "Hey, I want a piece of the pie." It's like, please, go take a piece of the pie. Like I want,
when those people are invested, they work much harder. Let's just put it that way. I mean,
bingo.
They care more.
Yeah,
like I don't know if you had a partnership track before. But when you are a partner and you own this thing, you care way more than like you're just getting a W-2 and going home, or you're not a partner and don't want to be. Not that there's anything wrong with that. We have some people that don't want to be partners. You don't have to be partners. But like if you're a partner, you are so invested in outcomes and how the website looks and what the waiting room looks like. Is the coffee made? Like you care about every little thing and you want to improve it and grow it. And I'm sure she's doing that. Did you ever have a partnership track before, or you just recently started this?
No. So we put in profit sharing 3 years ago. I thought we were pretty early on that. We have a 401k with match, and now we're in an inflection point. The business, we rebranded the business. We are going to become an MSO, which is a whole nother story. That probably not for this podcast, but it's a different sort of corporate structure, I want.
How many partners do you have?
Right now, there's none, but there will be.
You.
Yeah.
So you're trying to start that.
Yeah,
so
I want to.
The advice I would give you, because I've worked in a lot of different. I've seen different contracts and worked in Chicago when I was a fellow in different offers that we got. And different kind of partnerships. If you make sure that the partnership is like a true partnership and everyone is equally invested and as equal as possible, where there isn't like some upper level person that kind of controls everything in the background and really is the master and no one really has a say, those do way better. When you have equal partnership, everybody's equally vested, everyone is the same. I think that does better. Now, you might not want to do that if you like I built this thing, I sweat and teared, they can be my employees and we'll do some profit sharing. If we all do well, we all get bigger bonuses. that's fine too. But as long as it's like stated at the outset and it's not like a fake partnership. Like I've seen some people where they tell you you're becoming a partner, but realistically you're not. There's like 3 people that really own it, and then everyone else is kind of like some associate or not so much of a partner kind of partner. So just make sure like the people you're hiring or you're offering them exactly what you say you are, so they know what they're getting into, because then they won't have any like regret or remorse. Like, this is what you signed, this is what you agreed to. Well, if you don't like it, we can change it later, but this is actually what you signed up for. I think that works a lot better than, you think you're becoming an equal partner, but it turns out you're not. So
Yeah,
I've seen that in the past too.
I think we'll work that out. I have a great, she's great. And, every step of the way I've supported her. And, I think, we're at a point where, I think this MSO structure will probably help us sort of grow to the next steps, and, people can have their own practices. They don't even need to be a partner. The MSO
Right.
will help them, and then they can have
What
their
is
own
MSO?
practice.
Describe an MSO.
It's a medical service organization. So
So is it sort of like an ACO, like a
it's a,
accountability, whatever
it's,
it's called?
it's a little bit different than that. An MSO, you've probably run into them. It's a way to share technology, branding, amongst different practices. So why does every practice need to develop their own remote
EMR, for
monitoring suite?
example.
Yeah, or
Okay.
yeah, you share the EMR, you share a remote monitoring platform, you share the app, you share branding, you share a lot, and then but you deliver your own care. Maybe you share protocols, you share data, you share EMR. Pricing structure would be the same, but you practice sort of independently.
And people can open up like franchises almost.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a franchise. It's called it's because it's, franchises. There's a lot of you practice the way you want. But I guess franchise is not bad, but there's no medical franchises.
No, I don't mean
Yeah,
like, but for a normal person thinking of this, it would be like opening up your own
sort of. Yeah,
location
exactly.
that's loosely affiliated with, your
Yeah.
thing.
So say that you're starting out and you don't want to make an app, and you don't want to do branding on a website, and you don't want to do, accounting, and you don't want to do legal stuff, and you don't want to hire health coaches. You don't want to hire, all you want is to hire maybe the receptionist, the medical assistant, your 4 walls, and that's it. And if somebody could come in and help you do the rest, you take that, right? That's the person who comes and helps. That's the MSO. So like CityMD I don't know if you guys have CityMD by you. That's a good example. It's like an urgent care chain, is an MSO. So like Minute Clinics are an MSO.
Yeah, I've seen those.
The CVS Minute Clinics. It's a way to share some stuff, but still be independent.
Okay, so you use a lot of like the back end resources, maybe the shared billing departments and electronic medical record systems, accounting, all of that, but you still get to open up your own place and benefit there. They have to obviously cover a lot of the overhead. For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. I
There would be
mean,
some kind of payment or some kind of agreement or
yeah,
licensing.
usually the office will collect the payments, right? And then pay a fee for, whatever is agreed upon, right?
Gotcha.
So, well, what's the benefit? The benefit is you don't have to invent the wheel. You have to
Right.
reinvent the wheel. You just sort of like pick up and go. Um, and I
Have
think,
you? Oh, go ahead.
yeah, no, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to ask you, have you
Yeah.
ever been approached by these venture capital private equity firms saying, "Hey, we'll buy you
Yes.
guys and we'll expand and we'll get you offices
Yes.
everywhere and all that"? Because we've
Yes.
met with several. We get those emails and messages every day.
Yeah.
What do you think of it? Obviously, you haven't sold out, or I don't mean it in a bad way, but you haven't
No,
sold
no.
to private equity. What's your reasoning? And then I'll tell you mine.
Um, yeah, we have been approached. I think that it's an interesting thing for docs who are looking to sort of at the end of their career, just like selling to the hospital, like your dad. Um, I would be very concerned, about if I was a private practice, like if you truly want to serve your community and do good, the private equity firm's not doing that, right? So you just have to understand where that's going to. It's sort of like, if you get like it's just, I can't do that. I can't do that.
Yeah,
If we decide to raise money or something like that at some point, if we decided to do that, seek evaluation or raise money, I couldn't give up any of there's no way I'm letting an administrator run this company, right? There's just no way. Can't happen. That's how you ruin medicine, in my opinion.
I agree. And a lot of them will come to you and approach you with that exact hook. Say, hey, you get to still run your own practice. You guys make all the medical decisions. You guys get to do everything. We'll just help you hire more staff, get newer equipment, open another office, another location, hire more doctors, open an outpatient, surgery center, all that kind of stuff. I mean, we've met with several just to explore options. And at the end of the day, it seems like everybody I know, like a lot of my friends in Chicago, they were hired by a hospital system or a clinic that eventually ended up being a multi-specialty clinic that was sold to another private equity that's now being sold to another one. All they do is they slash services. They cut the front desk staff. The customers or patients are not happy because they can never reach a human. They slice everything up and dice it, make it look like they shaved 20% or earned 20% more, and then package it up and sell it off to the next group. And then that other group does the same thing. And now this thing is selling for $1 billion, where the top owners or the original owners, they might make a few million out of it, or sometimes 10 or 20, I don't know. But it never, the math doesn't math when you sit down. And I'm an economics major. Like, I'm not like a biology major or anything. And actually, like you, I was very entrepreneurial growing up. I opened up like 1 billion businesses, online websites were a thing back then. And I started a bunch of them, plus some other stuff, some investment companies. But either way, like the math just never maths, and the patients are never happy. And you end up almost gutting your practice for these private equity people to then repackage it. They own like, however you want to divide it, 60, 70%, or even if you go 50-50, whatever. But they end up becoming the quote unquote owners or bosses. They repackage it and sell off the whole thing again. You make your 30% of the next sale, which could be a huge one. But at the end of the day, are you there to like make a killing and make $1 billion, or do you want to help people? And actually, our practice is doing fine. Everybody makes a good living. Being the whole reason we are in private practice, is to avoid this kind of stuff. We don't want, Mike to come in and Jenny with their suits to come and tell us, hey, your computers are looking kind of old, and, all that stuff, and cutting half our staff that's been there with us, some of them all over 20 years, just to like package it up and sell it again. Have you ever actually explored it or talked to these people? Like, what do they tell you?
I haven't really. I mean, I've just basically I've said no. We've had some people sort of show interest, and it's just not like I'm not at a place for that right now. I think the problem with private equity is the fact that I think corporate medicine laws probably need to be changed to actually get them out of it, to get private equity out of it. Look, the reality is if you're doing something good, somebody's going to want to come by you, right? And it's great to get that valuation. Like, hey, we think you're worth 20 million. We'll pay you 5. I think,
and then sell you to the next guy for 50 or 70.
Right. I think what happens and I've seen it, a lot of practices in this area have been sold to private equity. A big, one of the best GI firms in this area was sold to private equity. On the first day, their front desk staff was all fired, and they hired a call center in like the Philippines. So now to call like to get the colonoscopy results, to talk to I literally call a call center that has to dial in to the office.
Use Google Translate.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. But look, I think private equity is here to stay for the foreseeable future, and I think I think it's a good thing in a sense that practices will be valued higher and higher. So if are reaching a point in your career that you're looking to sell, I think at least you'll be valued for your work and your time. But it's not good for patients. It's not good.
Some of the proposals we've discussed seem to be where they are a little more patient focused, but you have to kind of read the fine lines. Like the people coming and giving you the presentation are not the people that are actually writing the deal, right? They're these slick salesmen, kind of like farm reps. They come in and they're like, "Oh, doc, you got to see this study," and like they're just here to sell you something. But the people that actually write the deal in the end, the underwriters and the banks and all that, they don't. It never matches what these people sold you. Like they said, like hospitals. Even when the hospital comes to hire you, like we've had so many of our fellows go on interviews and they meet with the suits. They don't even meet with like doctors, but they meet with the C-suite, the CEOs and the CMOs and the CFOs, and they go on this wonderful tour of the cath lab and all this stuff. And then like when they finally get their contract, they're like, we didn't talk about this at all. What are they saying? Like the numbers of the salary are okay, but none of what they were promised or told was going to happen, and how friendly the place was and how amazing you're going to get this and an office and a car and whatever. It almost never matches. Once the lawyers and the financial people get a hold of it, the salespeople in the marketing department, it like never matches what they've actually said. So you got to be like super careful with that. And we've had like tons of these. We're like the only private practice cardiology practice left in the country almost. But we have people like up our butts every day trying to get us to even just sit down or talk with them. We've talked to a few, it never pans out, and it's always like they're trying to sell you some amazing dream, and then it's never anywhere near what it sounds like.
I'd imagine the old docs probably want to consider it, and the newer docs probably are not interested.
The good news is none of us are old. Everybody in our practice is like 50 or younger. So we did have several older people that have retired in the last couple of years, but they wouldn't. They don't even know what private equity is. Like they're really old.
How do you guys handle the path to partnership?
So there are basically when you sign up to work with us, you get a 1-year contract or 2 years, kind of depending on how badly we need doctors that year. But you get either a 1-year or 2-year contract. It's pretty competitive. We don't have to offer top dollar. Like we don't have to offer the $750, $850, whatever these insane numbers look like that some of these hospital systems are paying, because we're actually giving you a piece of equity. Like we're saying, listen, we're going to pay you less for a year or two. That's kind of like your way of buying in. But after that, you become a partner, you're going to make a really good living. And, the hospitals aren't going to offer you equity. You're not going to go to Kaiser Permanente or NYU and say, hey, I want to own half your hospital or 3%. Like that's just not going to happen. But you work for a year or two, and it used to be 3 years at some point, like around COVID time, it was like 3 years. But you work for a reasonable salary. And it's mainly so you can decide if you like us and we can decide if we like you. Like and we interview these people quite a bit. Like you don't make it to meet our partners unless I've interviewed you a million times and you've talked to one of the other guys and we feel like it's a fit. Then you can come in and meet all of us and meet the staff and talk to everyone. So it's not like a brutal process. It's pretty simple. Like by the time you've made it to interventional cardiology, you're definitely smart enough to do it. But it's a matter of like personalities clicking. Do our values align? Like, what is it? And I can tell you some crazy stories about some of the people we've interviewed with some of their expectations. But at the end of the day, if after a year or two or whatever we put in your contract, if after that year is up and you want to join, it's a 40,000 buy-in, which we've all paid the 40,000. You don't even have to pay it. We just take it out of your next 4 quarterly bonuses. We just subtract 10 out of whatever bonus. All of us get a base salary, and then every quarter we divide up, basically what's left in the account. So we keep it as even and as fair as possible. You become a partner just like everyone else. And if you want to leave, we pay you your 40,000 back. There's a severance package where we look at accounts receivable, divide it by how many partners there are. Let's say there's 10 and it's 2 million. We divide it up. You get, if there's 10 of us, you're owed 10%. We pay you that 10%, that 200,000 over the next 12 months, plus a few other like simple things. I don't remember what they are. There's an accountant lady that does all that. But we try to make it as seamless and fair as possible. Like the second you become a partner, you're just like the rest of us. I mean, I'm not superior to you. You're not superior to me. We all get the same amount of say and vote. If it ever comes to a vote, we're all like pretty much on the same wavelength usually, and we just try to come to a consensus rather than voting on things just to make it so it makes sense. Sometimes you get these people that we've interviewed and they're like, I want my initial contract to say 850 because my one friend got a contract for 750. Like, dude, what are you talking about? That's just unreasonable and insane. Like, you want to go work for Dayton Healthcare, go work for Dayton Healthcare. We're not giving you a contract for 850. Like, that would be absurd. But we'll give you equity and you want to come join us. That's one thing the hospitals can't do. But you want to come join us in a year, you be an equal partner, equity partner, just like the rest of us. And you'll make a very good living, maybe even more than that 850 sometimes. I don't know. It just depends on the year and whether we opened a new office or the nuclear camera went down and we needed to buy new nuclear cameras or, whatever it might be. Every year is different. That's the thing with private practice. It's never guaranteed. Some years you have a good year. Some years it's a little less. I mean, it just kind of depends. So I don't know. That's how we do partnership. We try to make it as transparent and simple and as fair as possible because we know that long term, if you're not viewed as an equal partner, there's going to be some rumblings and people aren't going to be happy and satisfied. And they're always, going to be causing issues or looking for that next job and leaving, which is fine if it doesn't turn out to be a fit and you want to leave, no big deal. But we want it to be like a cohesive group that is super friendly, all gets along. I cover your back, you got mine. If something happens and you got to leave for a month or whatever, we'll cover you, no big deal. Like, we don't have any weird strict rules. Like some of these people, when I look at their contracts, they're like, you only get 4 weeks off and you have to request those 4 weeks 2 years in advance. Like, who knows what they're doing in 2 years? Don't even know what I'm doing tomorrow. So it's kind of the contracts are very predatory, especially the corporate ones. Like, we'll pay you 750 or 850 like this guy wanted. He's going to get 850. The first year is guaranteed. And sometimes they'll juice it up by saying, the first 2 years are guaranteed. But then after that, it drops to a certain number. And if you don't hit a certain number of RVUs, you're not going to even make your contract. We'll just pay you $50 an RVU, which if you do the math, sometimes that doesn't even end up being $250. And I know most people listening to this are like, oh my God, you guys are insane. You're complaining about millions of dollars. We're not. I mean, it is. It comes from a place of privilege and we understand that. But unfortunately, that's the kind of numbers. Like, no one complains that NFL players are getting paid in the 200,000, 300,000, 600,000, whatever it is. But that's kind of, these people are highly sought after and they're going to these little towns and it's very hard to attract people to. Like, Northwest Ohio is not a destination point, right? Chicago, New York, LA, Miami, you could offer way less and people would love to come there. But coming to a freezing cold, like negative 10 degrees Ohio, to work in a small town, even though there's large academic centers and we do all the fancy stuff they do everywhere else, it's not like a New York or LA or whatever. They can offer far fewer salaries, have a higher cost of living, and people still love to move there. I've seen insanely low contracts from some of those places. So I think it really depends, but we try to keep the partnership track like it's all spelled out. It's super even. If you leave, we give you 40 grand back. We pay you a severance package too. We make it so that it's not hard to join or leave. And we just try to make it as, fun and maybe not fun, but like as collegial as possible so that everyone enjoys the work environment. Now, obviously, you know what you're getting into. Private practice is a lot of work too. Like you said, I don't sleep sometimes. I'm like trying to figure stuff out. Like, why isn't this clicking on the website, or why is this ad not, hitting the right zip codes or whatever it might be. But it is what it is. I'm sure I would definitely, if you're going to set up a partnership track, definitely decide how you, like, what do you want out of it? Do you really want to give away ownership? I think it is better to do that because people are more invested and they're more likely to work really, really hard when they know they own the place. Versus, speaking of which, it's kind of funny. Sometimes people put comments under my videos and they say, I'm going to call your office and complain about you. I'm the owner. You can complain to me directly. I'll take your complaints. You don't have to complain to my employer. I'm the employer. So that part's kind of funny sometimes. But you have to decide like how you what you want out of it. Like, do you really want to give away equity and ownership, or do you just want somebody who is very vested and will get really nice bonuses if they work hard and we all do well? I think that's kind of what you have to decide. I don't know that I can answer that for you. I know for me personally, I'm way more motivated to work when I know I own the place. And like, if the more we do and the better we do, the better everybody does. Even our staff, like we have really good years. We'll send staff like really nice bonuses at the end of the year. And they're like, it's unexpected. Like, wow, oh my goodness, this is amazing. But I think keeping people happy that work for you too, where they love wanting to work for you, is a huge advantage. Like people never want to leave. We have people that have been there longer than I've been there. I mean, some of our original staff have been there the whole 26 years. And I only joined 15 years ago, maybe something like that, 14, 15, something like that.
Testament to
Yeah.
probably a great team there. If people are staying that long, usually it means some good things.
Yeah. And we do our best. Like I'd rather pay the person an extra dollar or two an hour to keep them than have them jump ship and go to the place next door that's paying them the extra 50 cents or whatever. Like you're faced with that kind of situation. I'm sure you've had similar situations where someone's like, oh, I'm sorry. These people are offering me 35 an hour. Like, okay, we'll give you 36. Like, just please stay. Like, it's not that big of a deal. We love you. We love having you. You make the place work. The patients love you. You already know our system. So like you have to also be flexible with that kind of stuff. I mean, you pay the going rates, but if like somebody's amazing and you want to keep them around, you gotta be flexible. So I don't know. It's definitely a different world than just
Yeah,
showing up and doing your 7 to 7 and going home.
I don't recommend it for most people. Would I have gone back and done it? I probably would be a 50-50, 50-50. I would have gone back and done it. But when
So
I was originally thinking about this, it was like 90% certain. Now, if I had to go back, I would like think about it a little bit more.
your app, I'm curious about, is it a homegrown app or is it an app that like how did you come up with that?
Yeah, that's for another time. That's not 10:30, but
I mean, it seems like it was developed by you guys specifically for your practice. That's what I could tell from the app.
yeah, the app
I mean, it seems like a
is.
homegrown app. It wasn't like licensed or rebranded for you or anything like that.
No, everything there is original. There's not one
Excellent.
thing that is,
Yeah, that's what it seemed like.
everything, including the AI, including the courses, all the exercise.
That
The one thing that I will say that we sort of licensed out was we have like, sort of workout plans. So you go in and we have this workout plan that, brings up videos that you could just, like
start doing.
yeah, exactly. And we license those. So that's not ours, but it's like the most widely used licensing company for
Yeah, PT Hub or something.
it's MedBridge, but yeah,
Oh.
but other than that, it's everything
And
is
so do
homegrown.
you have like an in-house programmer that does this, or did you hire some people off like one of these websites that has programmers?
No,
Because that can get very costly, obviously. I'm sure because you did it, but
yeah, it sucks. Again, I don't recommend it for most people. It works great for us. You kind of see the events coming up, you see
yeah.
what's going
No,
on.
it's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah.
My app is a lot
Designers.
simpler, but it's definitely, I mean, we pay thousands a month to get, like, people don't realize we pay thousands a month. I'm sure too, thousands a month to keep this stuff like working and going, like the websites, the apps, the back end EMRs and systems and call centers and phones that, transfer every night to wherever they're supposed to transfer. Like, I mean, people think that, uh, this stuff magically happens or that it's like, I mean, it costs us money out of our own pockets to do this stuff. We don't have to do it, but it provides better care and education for patients. And I wish more people would do that. I mean, I'm talking mainly specifically about the social media stuff that we both do. Like this stuff costs money. Like we're not like people are like, you guys are just grifting for whatever. We are actually paying money to put our stuff out there so that you can watch it and read it and learn from it. So I don't know. I feel like your app is definitely more advanced. Mine is it's a Kajabi app that's branded to be like Dr. Allo. But still it has like all my stuff on there. It has like my lectures, my community. my communication systems, whatever's on there. I forget what's on there, but all that stuff is in there. But it's a licensed app from Kajabi, which you have to pay like hundreds, if not thousands, a month to keep all that stuff working.
I don't even know what Kajabi is. So
It's like a platform. It's an educational platform online for. It's like a hosting slash email slash website slash blog hosting platform that you can brand your own apps to. Like they have an app, but you can have them rebranded as your own. So
oh,
definitely,
got it. Yeah, I'll take a
yeah,
look at that. Take a look at that.
yeah, it's super cool. But anyways, I appreciate it. One thing I thought was interesting. I think we both agree that the healthcare system, at least the insurance, system, won't pay for you to lose weight. However you want to lose weight, they won't pay for you to lose weight, but they'll pay for your heart attack and knee replacement and stroke later, which is just bizarre.
Well, you know who will pay? The employers are paying. So,
Because it saves them money long term. Like, what's their incentive? I guess
yeah, it saves them money, right? They're on the hook for it.
From paying like United or Blue Cross or whatever.
They're on the hook. They're on the hook, right? So they're all self-funded. So they're on the hook. So if you can prove value, people want value now. Convenient care is value. Like if you keep people out of the hospital, that's a value, right? So there's companies predicated on that, right? And then if you can get people to lose weight and get healthy, now there's companies based on that. So it's awesome. The apps part of it, remote monitoring's part of it. I think, every health coach in our company has, had a weight loss journey. They've maintained weight off, so they know what they're saying. Everybody's a, metabolic health expert in our company. Laura Buchanan is on the board of the SMHP. Our NP that we're looking to hire, she's just phenomenal, long track record in diabetes management and research. So it's awesome. I mean, those are the good parts. I'd say, like, if you want to be excellent, go private practice, if in every way. If you want to just make a living and do good work, go work for a great employer, that would be my advice. But thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming on. I know it's a very different topic,
yeah,
but I think it's very educational. I guess people get kind of a peek into the world of medicine, employed versus private practice and all that stuff. And maybe it'll help some people make decisions, whether they're patients or patients deciding where to go. And,
support the private docs. Support that. You were trying to do good work. Support the private docs.
I agree. All right. Well, thanks for coming on.
Have a good one.
Chat later. Yep. Take care. Good night.